what constitutes disability, which is a really sort of big picture question, came from a couple of different locations. One, someone was asking about whether or not a particular type of disability would amount to something that would equal benefits for Social Security. And somebody was asking it from a different angle as it related to workers' compensation, things of that nature. So I really think that it's a good idea to talk about it from the standpoint of what is disability, or what does it mean to be disabled, right? So it's an interesting, because it's the language of the word disability. And what I mean by that is, in Social Security, you've got to demonstrate that you are disabled from performing what they call substantial gainful activity. What that means is that you have to be so injured or so disabled that you can't make more than, I think in 2022, it's $1,350 a month. So as long as you make less than that, doing, let's say, a part-time gig or whatever, then you are not performing what they call substantial gainful activity, which means you're not working. So that makes you disabled for purposes of Social Security disability, as long as whatever your injury or whatever your disability meets the requirements that they have as it relates to, whether or not you're disabled. So if you prove that, and as long as you're not doing something that makes you more than $1,350 in a month, then you are disabled for Social Security. Now, for pensions, in order to successfully receive a pension to be disabled, all you have to do is demonstrate that either your injury or your disability prevents you from doing your particular job. So what that means is that you just have to show that whatever, let's say it's a non-work injury, say, you have a condition, a heart condition or whatever, prevents you from going back and doing your job, then you are disabled for purposes of pensions. And then for purposes of workers' compensation, disabled is a couple of different things. One, you are, let's say you just got hurt and you're out of work. Well, the language there is, I am temporarily totally disabled. So I'm temporarily totally disabled from doing anything. So that's how you get that workers' comp benefit right up front. Once that's done and you're back to work, then you still have a percentage or a measurement of permanent disability. But that just means the language inside of workers' comp says that you have a percentage of disability, which is basically another way of saying you're entitled to receive a certain amount of money for your injury. Or your injury could be so significant that you are eventually deemed to be totally disabled, which means you're going to get paid for the rest of your life from workers' compensation. So that's total disability benefits, which means that workers' comp will pay you. So the word disability there means that you have to demonstrate that you can't do anything anywhere ever again. So you are totally disabled. And that would be the benefit of again, receiving that lifetime benefit from workers' compensation. So when you put it together, the word disabled has a different meaning depending upon which particular area that you're working in or working through. So to be considered disabled in each one has a different legal definition, which is important because, of course, that what you may be getting advice on with one versus the other, you got to make sure that someone, whomever, if it were me, it would be correct, no problem. But if whomever you're dealing with, make sure that they understand what exactly it means when you're asking the question, am I disabled? Well, you might be disabled for purposes of pensions because you can't do your particular job, but you may not be totally disabled for purposes of a workers' comp, and you may not be totally disabled for purposes of Social Security disability. So it's critical to understand in which of these three categories you're in, and then, of course, what the definition of disability means for that particular area of law. Okay, so that's the answer to the question.